folks. Welcome to Queens Storytellers Online. I am David Lawson, your host and the curator of this series. On this show, we have performers performing true stories that actually happened to them in their own lives. First up this week, we have Willy Mosquera, who is the house manager right here at Queens Theater. Willy's going to be performing a story about the wild things that can happen when you are performing theater on the streets of Queens. After that, we have Rachna Hukmani. Rachna is the founder and CEO of her own company, Whiskey Stories. Rachna's going to be performing a story about making Christmas dinner for her boyfriend's mother when a certain ingredient makes things go a little sideways. After that, Cato, who is currently hosting the virtual comedy show, The Cato Show, run by Rushtix. Calvin's going to be performing a story about trying to make a major change to his life by competing on a game show. Finally, this week, folks, we are going to have Jean Le Bec. Jean, who has performed several times on the popular storytelling podcast Risk, which is hosted by Kevin Allison. Jean's going to be performing a story about being a secular Jewish woman and going to a pool in Brooklyn that is frequented by Orthodox Jewish women. Again, folks, I'm David Lawson, your host and the curator of this series. This series, of course, being Queens Storytellers Online. Folks, enjoy the show.
Hello, my name is Willy Mosquera. I am a house manager at Queens Theater, and also I'm a musician besides all that. But anyway, I'm here to actually tell a little story. For the last 2 years, unfortunately, we've been talking about a coronavirus, but I'm going to talk to you about a story called Corona Plaza in the neighborhood called Corona. Last summer, with the theater, we organized a little festival at Corona Plaza. So we were bringing entertainment to the community. So I want to tell you about like my first day experience going to Corona Plaza. Corona Plaza is located on off Roosevelt Avenue underneath the 7 train here in Queens, and it's a really tight community, and you find there a post office, a Walgreens, a Chinese restaurant, a Chinese or an Asian massage parlor, and a whole bunch of different stores. Anyway, so the first day that I was bringing a Mexican folkloric dance and music group to the plaza, and our show was supposed to start like at 4 o'clock. So I went there like at least 2.5 hours, so I could actually start taking care of what we were going to use as a stage, which was this platform that they have there, and people sit around it. So I went there so I could put like tape around it, and my sound guy was supposed to get there like around 2 o'clock actually. Anyway, so I'm doing this. I'm putting caution tape so people don't walk around there anymore, because I'm reserving that for the show. And out of nowhere, this group of Spanish religious people show up with a full PA system, and they start putting the speakers and stands together. And I go, "Excuse me, what are you doing?" And they go, "Well, we're here to preach. We come here every Sunday." And then I go, "Yeah, but I'm going to have a show here, and my sound guy's on his way over here." So then they go, "Well, we're here every Sunday." And then they go, "Do you have a permit?" So I was like, "Yeah." And so I pulled out my phone, and I had the screenshot of the permit. I said, "Here's my permit." I said, "How are you guys? You have a permit?" "Yeah, we have a permit." I go, "Well, where is it?" We don't have it right now, but we have a permit." So they're really upset. And I'm going like, "Well, listen, you guys could preach all you want, but my sound guy's going to be putting, equipment here." So then they said, what time you guys start the show? And I said, 4 o'clock, whatever. We'll be out of here in 1 hour. Okay. So I said, great. Anyway, they set up their PA. This young Spanish preacher starts preaching in Spanish, and I'm bilingual, I speak Spanish. So he starts saying, "We were just informed that today they're going to have some demonic show here with demonic music, and they don't want to know that the Lord is here." And I'm going like, "Wait a minute, what happened?" So I called my buddy Mike, who's the sound guy, he was on his way to the plaza, and I said, Mike, I just wanted to tell you that today you're Satan. Okay, so when you get here, they're gonna look at you like Satan. So he's laughing, whatever. So he arrives to the plaza, and then he starts putting the equipment, but it was good. Then the guys, they preached, and we gave them the hour, and they finished, and then they left. So now Mike is all set up with a PA system, and now the musicians start arriving. So the musicians all set up, and now we're gonna do a sound check. So before we do actually sound check, I'm sorry, I missed it. No, the equipment, the PA is on, and then this man comes off the train from 7 train with a big bag of breadcrumbs, and then he just starts throwing bread all over the platform where we're supposed to use a stage for the pigeons that live underneath the train to come eat. So then I'm going like, what are you doing? And then he's like, well, my friend, I'm feeding the pigeons. I'm like, yeah, I know you are, but like this place is so big, you could put this like by the tree, but why are you putting it right here? Well, this is where they want to come. And then he goes, you have a permit? I go, yeah, I have a permit. So I show him my permit, and I go, how about you? Well, I work for the city. I go, what do you do for the city? He says, I feed the pigeons. I go, no, I didn't know they had a job in the city. So then he goes, listen, my friend, he says, don't worry about it. The pigeons, they'll eat everything. They don't eat anything. I go, yeah, but I don't know if you noticed that, birds eat and poop at the same time. And I have dancers who are going to be stomping over here, and that's the problem. So I pulled out my phone and said, you know what, let me film you. The guy took off, went back to the train, and I don't know, he left where he came from. Then musicians arrived. Now we got ready to do sound check. Now I got 2 Mexican activists holding this huge banner with pictures of a whole bunch of like ex-presidents of Mexico, and the title on top of the banner said, "The Real Criminals of Mexico." And they stand right in front of the musicians on the stage. So I have to go back there and I go, guys, I don't know if you noticed, but there's musicians here. We're gonna have a show right now, and in a little while. And then they go, and we could stand wherever we want. This is an open area. We're here all the time. So then I'm like, yeah, but like, we're gonna have a show. You guys could stand in the bottom of the steps, not necessarily here. And then they go, you have a permit? So I'm like, there's my permit. How about you guys? We don't need a permit. We're here all the time. So I'm like, listen, guys, just give me like an hour and a half, and then it's all yours. All right. So they went down there, and then I was like, okay, finally. So now the band starts doing sound check, and they start playing music. This is beautiful Mexican music. I mean, that makes you want to move. And here and there's a lot of people who actually drink, and a lot of people who probably spend the whole night at the plaza drinking, and they sleep there. So one of them wakes up, and he listens to the music, and of course it moves him. So and he's like sort of like drunk and starts dancing in the middle of the stage. So he's dancing. And then I'm going like, oh man, again, now what am I going to do? So I walk up to the man, of course this is in Spanish, and I start dancing with him, and I go, listen, buddy, I don't know if you noticed that we're doing a show here, and it's great that you're dancing, but can you dance in the bottom of the steps? You know what I'm saying? And he looks at me and says, no problem. The only guy who did not ask me for a permit, which was an amazing thing. So anyway, so he went down there, and the show went on, and the show was beautiful, and people loved it, and once the show ended, people were coming up to me saying, thank you for bringing this to the community. We've never had something like this here. And then I noticed, but then listen, so that was the end of that day. I had to come back the following Sunday when I came back. It was the same thing. The religious people a certain hour, the drunk guys this, and we did that for like about 8 Sundays. Well, to tell you the truth, by the last Sunday, I was so in it with the community. Like I knew everybody, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, I was like their family now. Now with the religious people from day one, them calling us evil and cursing us out almost. The final day, we said goodbye to each other with like hugs, and they gave me a Bible, So it was an amazing experience. But anyway, that's my my Corona experience, Corona Plaza.
Hi, I'm Rachna Hukmani, and my story started a few years ago when I first moved to the US. I was very excited to move here. I didn't grow up here. I grew up on a Greek island, and I just started dating my first American boyfriend, Wyatt. And it was just before Christmas that Wyatt and I decided it would be really fun to invite his mom over to his apartment for a Christmas dinner and that we would cook for her. So picture this, it's Christmas Eve. We have Christmas music going on in the background, soft lights from the Christmas tree, the fire burning in the fireplace, just really, really warm and nice. And we're drinking wine, and Wyatt's got a chicken roasting in the oven. And I have this recipe of rosemary potatoes that I like to make for Christmas. It's buttery, it's crispy, it's just really good comfort food. So there I am. I'm at the skillet on the stove. I'm cooking at Wyatt's apartment for the first time. And I reach over into a spice rack. There's a bottle there that's labeled rosemary. I generously sprinkle the rosemary on the potatoes, cover the skillet, turn the flame to low fire on the stove so that it cooks for about an hour. And we're just kind of hanging out. An hour later, his mom comes in, and we're excited to host her. We all sit at the dinner table. We've laid out the table, this whole feast, and we're eating and laughing. And through the dinner, Wyatt and his mom, Marcia, are raving about how good the rosemary potatoes are. And they almost end up finishing the entire skillet, which is a pretty large portion between the two of them. And as we're eating and laughing, I'm eating the rosemary potatoes too, and I'm feeling a little lightheaded, and I assume it's the wine. And here and there, Wyatt's mom, Marcia, also comments, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I think this wine is kind of strong. We finish dinner, move to the living room. Three of us sit on the couch to watch a movie. And it's only about 5 or 6 minutes into the movie, and suddenly his mom gets up and says, I think I'm going home. I feel weird. The room is spinning. I'm having trouble focusing. My throat is dry. My mouth is dry. It's like I've been drugged or something. And Wyatt goes, wait, I feel the same way. And so they're looking at each other, and that's when I say, I feel the same way. So the three of us are kind of just looking at each other, and suddenly Wyatt goes, hold on a second. And he goes to the kitchen, and he comes back, and he's holding a little bottle, spice bottle, and it says rosemary on it. And he goes, did you use this to cook rosemary? And I say no. And I don't understand the significance, and I'm getting annoyed. And he goes, okay, so then did you use this bottle? And he was hiding another bottle behind his back. And it's this larger bottle. It also is labeled rosemary. And I said, yeah, that's the one I used. So he bursts out laughing. And he goes, that's not rosemary, that's pot. Basically, a couple of days before that, he was cleaning his room. He found a stash of pot, and he put it in that bottle. And he meant to scratch off the label. So it didn't say rosemary, it said pot. But he forgot. He got distracted. And so he just put the pot in the rosemary bottle as it was. Now, I was new to the US. I didn't grow up in countries where pot is easily accessible. So I didn't know what it smelled like or tasted like. So when I first saw it, I thought, wow, this is some wild-looking rosemary. This is probably what it looks like in the US. So I sprinkled it generously and made pot potatoes without realizing it. Served it to his mom, and she ate it, almost all of it, at Christmas dinner. And I also didn't know this, but if you cook pot on slow fire in oil, it becomes a hallucinogen. So there we were, the three of us, hallucinating from 9 o'clock at night to 6 a.m. the next morning. Wyatt's mom kept switching from laughing to crying. And it was like watching the world's saddest tennis match. Wyatt's hallucinations, he decided the world was ending. So he kept trying to get his mom and me out to safety so we could hide somewhere. And my hallucination was that I decided that wasn't my boyfriend, it was an imposter. So I refused to let him rescue us. And so this is what was happening with the three of us till 6 o'clock the next morning until the hallucinations broke. And once that happened and I realized what I'd done, I was so sure that Wyatt's mom would hate me and that Wyatt and I would break up. But our relationship stayed strong and his mom loved me. And I became famous among all his relatives. And they would text me, keep asking me for the potatoes recipe. In fact, Wyatt and I broke up 2 years ago, and his family and his relatives are still texting me, asking me for my potatoes recipe. I never give it to them. I just say it's on a weed to know basis and leave it at that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Calvin Cato, and this is my story. So I'm gonna have to take you back to a simpler time. We're gonna go back to 2006, much simpler time. Destiny's Child was still together. Bush was president. Unfortunately, it was Bush the lesser, more like Bush the least, if you ask me. And it was such a much better time. White people didn't know what twerking was. 2006. We were still doing things basically. And I had graduated from college with a degree in English and a manuscript. It was a short story collection that was going to be bought by Random House. Now, Random House did not know about this plan, but I knew that they would totally be interested in it. Unfortunately, they said no. And so I had to shop the manuscript around to several other publishers, and they also said no. So then I was like, oh no, what am I supposed to do? And the answer was get a job, which was very hard to do in the current market that we were in because there was a recession going on, again, because of Bush the lesser. So what I did was my friend suggested that I sign up with a temp agency. And the temp agency that I started with was very, very nice. And the agency got me a job where I was working as a research assistant at a magazine, and I was making $15 an hour, which you have to understand, back then, $15 an hour, that was a lot of money for a recent graduate. Like, we're talking 2 boxed wines an hour. That's a lot of money. I was doing pretty well. I was getting the Frantia, the good stuff. So I was working this job. Unfortunately, as is the way of most temporary jobs, it ends. And I cannot find a permanent job. So another friend decides to set me up with another temp agency, which let's call Leafy Solutions. And so I go to Leafy Solutions and I meet with a woman who, let's call her name Karen, because she very much was one. Now, Karen was a woman who had like very short jet black hair. She was, skinny, slim build, but very severe face. And so I go in, I meet with Karen, I show her my resume, and she starts off being so excited, so nice. She was like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you're a recent graduate. I'm so excited. What are you interested in? And I said, well, I'm interested in working in publishing. And then she says, okay, well, what's your like hourly rate? And I said, well, the last job I had, I was making $15 an hour. So I would hopefully like to continue to do that. And she says, okay, that's great. I'm going to look through my list, but I do have a job for you that's $11 an hour. Now, here's the thing. I know I was an English major, but I do know math, and 11 is less than 15. So I explained to her this. I said, well, $11 is not really enough money. And then that's when she flips. She changes completely. And she goes, you should be grateful that I can even find you a temporary job in this economy. Do you know how hard it is? Berates me for a good 5 minutes. And because I'm young and a college grad, and I was just like, okay, I'm sorry. I guess I will just take this job. So I end up taking this $11 an hour job where I am working in a back room stuffing envelopes. It was very depressing, very sad, and the room was very hot and windowless. I do this job for one day, and then after the day ends, the temp job is over. And so the next day I get a call from Karen, and Karen says, you did such a great job. Everyone raved about you. And I was like, well, yeah, it's stuffing envelopes. Like, you're just folding paper. That's not really a difficult task. And so she goes, I have another job for you. This job is going to pay $12 an hour. Now, again, I was an English major, but I do know math, and 12 is still less than 15. But I decide, you know what? I'm going to take this job anyway. I'm not going to do any complaining about it. So this job was in an office, but this office had windows, so it felt like an upgrade. And what I was doing was I was working in a bank, and I had to organize papers because the bank was going to be audited. Now, I would tell you the name of the bank, but I don't know what happened. This bank does not exist anymore. So clearly they probably failed their audit, but that wasn't my fault. I was only there to file these papers and alphabetize them. So I'm working at this job and I'm feeling very depressed and sad because this is not where my dreams should be. I shouldn't be temping in a bank. I was supposed to be, in print, and my name, would be in the New York Times and stuff. And so at the time, I had two other friends who also graduated college, the same as me, and we were all feeling very frustrated. So I had another friend, and his dream was to be a filmmaker, and he was also temping in an office. And then I had a third friend, and his dream was to be a stand-up comedian. But instead, what his job was he was working for MTV's Yo Mama. In case you guys don't know what Yo Mama was a show where people had to trade Yo Mama jokes, and the person who had the best joke won $50. But he was not one of the people trading the insults. You see, Yo Mama would have an audience where if someone would say, Yo Mama's so fat that X, Y, and Z, and then someone would have to yell, oh, and that was his job. His job was to yell, oh. So as you can tell, that's very far away from stand-up comedy. So the three of us would meet every once in a while, get drinks, and commiserate about how terrible our lives were going. And then my MTV Yo Mama friend found a casting call for a game show. And he was like, I think we should all go in and submit an audition to be a part of this game show. And here's the thing, I love game shows. I mean, I swear, if people can win cash prizes and or a new car, I'm into it. I love Price is Right. I love Jeopardy. I love Classic Concentration, taking it way back. And so I was like, yeah, like, let's go. I want to go. Let's like audition for this show. So we go into the casting call, and it calls for a team of 3 people. And so the casting director initially is not that interested. And she's like, I don't really see like a hook for you guys until I tell them. She goes, where have you met? Like, how did you guys become friends? And I sort of lie, and I said, well, we met at a naked party, which we had attended a naked party together, which again, naked party, no sex. I promise it was no sex. It was not one of those like weird eyes wide shut kind of things. It was literally, you just went naked, they hired a naked band, and you just danced naked. That was it. But the cast director's ears perk up when she says naked party. And so a week later, we get the call saying that we got cast to be on this show. So excited. So the game show was called Chain Reaction. And the way that Chain Reaction worked was that you would get the first word and then the first letter of a second word, and you had to guess what the second word is. So for example, if it was chain R, it'd be chain reaction, and then reaction T, reaction time. And you keep going and going until you filled out the entire chain. So we really wanted to win this money because we wanted to quit our day jobs. So we would go to work, and then we would meet at one of our respective apartments, and we would have VHS tapes. Yes, you remember VHS? We actually had VHS tapes. We taped every single episode of Chain Reaction that we could, and we would study them, and we would quiz each other, and we would like learn all the ins and outs of this game because we wanted to win this money. So we're practicing, and then it's the day before we go into the studio to tape our episode. And I come in that day into work, and I do no work. I sit down, I do nothing. My direct supervisor was like, hey, are you going to do any work today? And I said, no, because I'm going to be on television. You don't know how famous I'm going to be. And he goes, this is weird. I'm going to call Karen and let her know about this. So the supervisor calls Karen, and then Karen's like, hey, what's going on? And I heard you're not doing any work. And I said, no, I'm not going to do any work. You had me here working for $12 an hour, and I'm going to be on television. I'm going to be super famous. I don't need this job. And she goes, are you really going to quit? And I was like, yes, I'm quitting as of today. I quit the day of. And she goes, well, you know what? Fine, you can do that. And I was like, yeah, I am going to, because I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be on television. It's going to be amazing. So the next day happens, and then we go into the studio, and the studio is like huge. And it's like really nice. Like there's an actual makeup artist who does like your hair and face. And it was amazing. I really felt like a celebrity. And I learned one thing about game shows, which I did not know before, which is that they tape several episodes in the same day. So even though we had to go into the studio at 9 a.m., we don't tape until 2, which I'm like, you know, that's fine. It's a lot of downtime. We can sit. There's a craft services table. I can just veg out, but not too much because I'm going to be on television. I can't be fat. So, and then I'm going to go do the show. So then 2 p.m. rolls around. We go in, and it's our time to tape the show. So we go into the taping. We meet the host, Dylan Lane. Very, very nice. And then we go and we take our stands at the podium. And the theme of the show is guys versus girls. So it's the three of us versus these three ladies who are from Philadelphia. Very sweet, very nice, but they did not study the game like we did. So it gets to round number one, and round number one, we sweep the entire category. The girls win $0. We win all the money in that round. And then after that round is a bonus round. And so we get to the bonus round, we sweep the bonus round, win all of that money too. Then it gets to round two, we sweep that entire round as well, and we win the bonus money for that round. And then we have our little game show banter with the host, and they were like, hey, we met at a naked party, isn't that silly? Ha ha ha. The whole audience laughs, and I'm like, oh my God, we're doing it, we're famous, we're making it. So then we get to round number three, and round number three, we end up winning that round, and the girls win nothing, and we advance to the final round. And the final round, we get to win $5,000 extra. So now we're really like, oh my God, we're gonna win $5,000 extra on top of all this other money we won. This is amazing. This is so great. We get to the final round and it's nerve-wracking. I'm sweating. I'm hoping to all of the deities, God, Allah, Buddha, Thor, all of them, Anansi, I want to make sure we win this money. And so we get to the final round. We win the bonus $5,000. Yes, I'm so happy about it. And then, they wrap up the shooting. And then I go to the producer because I have to sign a contract to get the money. And that's the second thing that I learned about game shows, which is I thought, okay, so are you just going to give me cash now? And they're like, no. You get the money 6 months after the show airs. So if the show airs in 2 weeks, I can get paid in 6 months and 2 weeks. Or the show may not air for a year and I may not get paid for a year and a half. And this poses a problem because, as I mentioned before, I completely quit my job on the spot. So the next day, I call up Karen and I was like, hey, girl, how's it going? I know I basically told you to go fuck yourself, but I was so kidding. I would love to just get another job, please. And then she goes, you know what? We'll call you. And then she just hangs up on me. She did not call me back at all. And now I'm in a free fall of a panic. Thankfully, the show airs within 2 to 3 months. But what also helped was that the agency I worked at before that gave me the $15 an hour job called me back with a job. And she was like, here's a job that's going to make $15 an hour. And I was like, oh, thank God, this worked out for me. And so I worked at that other temp job until the show aired. And I remember going into a bar and I asked the bartender if you could turn this one television so I could see myself on the screen in the game. And he sees and he's like, oh my God, do you want all that money? Isn't that amazing? And I was like, yes, it is amazing, but never quit your day job. And that's my story. Thank you so much.
My name is Jean Le Bec, and the story you're going to hear is The Women of Lee Avenue. I'm walking up Lee Avenue. It is cold and windy, but still, the avenue is crowded and busy. Men wearing large fur hats and long black coats to their ankle. They walk in groups. They carry prayer books, eyes down. They ignore me as I walk by them. The women wear turbans of blue, burgundy, gray, or hats placed carefully on coiffed wigs. They have coats, black coats to their mid-calf, beige stockings and flat shoes. They push baby carriages and they're walking very quickly, a trail of 5 or 6 children running to catch up, all dressed exactly alike. Stores line both sides of Lee Avenue. And in the 2 years that I've lived in this Hasidic community, I have never shopped in any of those stores. I'm Jewish, but I don't feel any connection to this Hasidic community. The language is Yiddish. I walk past signs I can't read. I walk past words that I don't understand. I'm a foreigner. I don't even shop at the cute bakery with the smell of bread baking and the black and white cookies in the window. I'm on my way to the Metropolitan Recreation Center on Bedford Avenue. It's an all-women's swim this morning, and I'm determined to start my exercise program today, even though it's hard, the thought of going swimming in such cold weather. The locker room's empty. I squeeze into my black Speedo bathing suit. I pull on my pink skull-type bathing cap and goggles on my head, pink with green trim. I take a quick shower. I'm ready. I open up the door and there are hundreds of women, wall to wall. They're walking around the pool. They're singing and they're clapping. They're sitting on the edge of the pool and they're singing and they're clapping and they're in the pool. There are pregnant women floating back and forth. There are women floating other women on their arms. There are women in circles bobbing up and down, singing songs. And none of them are in bathing suits. They are all wearing turbans that are blue and gray and burgundy with matching dresses zipped to their collarbone, down to their knees. I am suddenly so naked in my black Speedo bathing suit that I have to become invisible and I don't know what to do. And I just kind of slip into a corner of the pool. What to do? Lap swimming is out of the question. I can hoist myself up. I'm not a good hoister. There's a woman coming towards me. Don't come to me, please, please don't come near me. Please don't come to me. Hi, she says, my name is Lily. She has the most beautiful blue eyes I have ever seen. And I say, I'm Jean. And she kind of takes me in and she goes, welcome. She goes, this is your first time. So I go, yeah. And she goes, you want to lap swim? And I said, yeah. And she says, well, go, you can swim. And I looked at her and I pointed like all of these women, like how? And she said, Babula, go, we will get out of your way, go. So I went and they got out of my way, dresses billowing like parachutes in the water. And each time I went by, they got out of my way. And finally, after about 10 laps, I stopped and I just scooched into the shallow part of the water. And there was Lily coming towards me. And she came next to me and she said, Jean, did you have a good swim? And I said, yes, it was wonderful. I said, I wasn't going to come today because it just was so cold out. And she goes, no, you must always come. And then she held her arms out to me, like I should go on top of them. And I was like, no, but I did. And at first I was so stiff. And then I relaxed. And she just kind of moved me back and forth in the water. And she said, see how warm the water is and look up. And for the first time, I noticed a skylight that was extended through the entire length of the pool that I had not seen before. And she said, and the light always comes in. And later in the locker room, there's a woman sitting on the bench opposite me and we caught each other's eye and we smiled and then we started to laugh. And I wondered if she was one of the women that swam out of my way. And she kind of pointed to herself, and she said, Tova. And I pointed to myself. I said, Jean, I wanted so much to talk to her, but she speaks only Yiddish and I speak English. But as we were leaving the locker room, she kind of grabbed my hand and she said, Jean, and I could see that she was kind of mustering up all her courage to say the only English words she knew. And she said, Jean, if you see something, say something. And I said, yes, Tova, if you see something, say something. And I knew I wasn't going to take the train home. I was going to walk back down Lee Avenue. I was going to go into that cute little bakery with the black and white cookies in the window, and I was going to buy some. Thank you.